Conspiracy theories. We know them, we love them, but they can be a slippery slope into a distrust in science. A lot of conspiracies, especially in archaeology, can be disproved quite easily with a bit of research. Today, I am going to walk you through some of those conspiracy theories. The Gosford glyphs. We start in Australia in the 1970s when a surveyor stumbled across a bunch of carvings along a canyon wall that were very similar to ancient Egyptian carvings. These carvings were translated by a man named Ray Johnson. He was not an Egyptologist, and he was not qualified in any capacity to translate a dead language. However, some confusion arose because there is a prominent Egyptologist also named Ray Johnson. The translation that the non-Egyptologist gave us claimed to tell a story of two sons of the pharaoh Khufu shipwrecking off of the Australian coast. Because of this name mix-up, the translation gained a lot more notoriety, and the Egyptologists had to make a statement to shut down some of this confusion. Ray Johnson, the Egyptologist, said, "I have never translated any faux Egyptian hieroglyph inscriptions in Australia. Those rock inscriptions were clearly not done by ancient Egyptians." The nail in the coffin, though, was the original discovery itself. When it was first discovered, the carvings looked incredibly fresh, as you see in the picture on the left there. That picture was taken in 1983. And something that is supposed to have been there for 5,000 years would not look as fresh as it does there. And after this guy discovered all of these carvings, he came back 6 months later to show some of his friends these cool carvings he found. And he found added carvings on the opposite wall that were not there before. And then in 1984, a park ranger actually caught an old man adding carvings to the wall. So that pretty much gets rid of any possibility that these were made by ancient Egyptians. Real hieroglyphics can tell us so much about the ancient world, and the reason we know so much about the Egyptians is due to these hieroglyphics. Today, some of them still can be misinterpreted to make some of these insane theories. In Dendera, at the Temple of Hathor, which is pictured here, it holds some of the most well-preserved hieroglyphics and paintings. But the one we're going to be talking about today is commonly referred to as the Dendera Light. The Dendera Light, the theory behind it is that Egyptians had a light bulb. And how they kind of came up with this is guy looked at it, a Norwegian electrician looked at this and then saw the snake down the middle and assumed that was some sort of filament. And then the end on there, he said that looks like a socket, and it looks like there's a wire coming off of it to a power source. And so he was like, this looks like a light, so it has to be a light. So, in other words, this theory is entirely based on the fact that this carving looks like a light. And it has even been published in a book called The Lights of the Pharaos by Peter Carosa and Reinhard Habeck. It then went on to be featured in the hit show Ancient Aliens. In both of these accounts, they fail to mention any of the hieroglyphics that are around this carving that actually tell you that this is not a light of any sort. It is a depiction of the ancient Egyptian creation myth. And these hieroglyphics were translated by Egyptologist Wolfgang Weihhaus. And so what is actually being depicted is the thing that they believe is a socket is actually a lotus flower. And then coming out of the lotus flower is the god of creation. And that's that snake thing in the middle there. Even with all of this evidence, theorists went on to create an idealized version of this light. It did work, however, they had to change a lot of things about it to actually make it work. So it doesn't even match what is in the carving anymore. But they took their own creative liberties to make something that would support their hypothesis. And then with this mock-up here, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner there are some little jars. Those are Baghdad batteries. These two artifacts are often put together, even though they were found in completely different regions. Theorists believe that this jar was some sort of ancient battery. It was found outside of Baghdad, and it has a copper cylinder on the inside with an iron bar in the middle of it, and then a asphalt stopper on the top of it. And those who believe it was a battery say that it would have been filled with some sort of electrolyte or acidic fluid. And so multiple of these mock-ups were made, and it was able to produce power, but they did the same thing that they did with the Dendera light, and they kind of took their own liberties to make it work. The original artifact was only 5 inches tall, and the mock-ups that they made didn't really produce a lot of power. And while we don't have any proven use for this artifact, we can kind of assume it wasn't a battery, because if it were a battery, then there would have been other electronic elements found in this region, like wires or something to power. But none of this has been found in the region at all. And then jars similar to this jar were found in the same region, and inside with the other attachments, it had papyrus and a scroll. So as of right now, the main theory is that it just stored paper. Now, it may seem like these are just harmless theories, but they are being shown to millions of people all across the world. And with shows like Ancient Aliens, which leave out all of the facts and strategically mislead their audience into believing that their theories are more substantiated, they are fostering a mistrust in the scientific community. This can lead to believing in a lot more dire conspiracy theories, such as the anti-vaxxing theory, and that can kill people. Like, it's not to be messed with. With a bit of research, many of these conspiracies can be disproven. And with shows like Ancient Aliens, they need to be more careful and provide all of the facts needed. While theories can be fun to think about, we all need to remember that there are real-world consequences for all of these things.